Next up, taking a peek at the steering wheel of the Explorer. So this thing looks nice, but I love that screen. The cluster screen inside of this thing, fully digital, which looks fantastic. So you're going to learn everything you need to know about the steering wheel buttons and that cluster screen. Let's go for it. So first thing to point out, the steering wheel is going to be a power telescoping. So just by our left knee, we can go forwards, backwards with it as necessary. Stick on the left-hand side, there's a button on the very tip of the stick, and that's going to toggle our lane keeping system on or off. So we obviously know it's on because we have it kind of separate for us there. We've got our lanes as well. So as of right now, it's technically turned on, but it's not actually activated yet. We have to go about 60 kilometers an hour, and those lanes are going to go green. And once they go green, it's got a few different things are going to happen just based off of what we've done inside of the sync media screen. So we've got a few different things that we can select, but 3 different things. So if we start to veer over into a lane without signaling, it might give us a little bit of a steering wheel shake, like we're running over rumble pavement. Option number 2 is it'll gently nudge us back into our lane, or option number 3, it'll do a mixture of both. So it's really just a matter of preference there. And as I mentioned, we can toggle it on or off. Stick along the right-hand side is going to be for our front and our rear windshield wipers. So button on the tip of that stick for that rear windshield wiper. As you can see there, we also do have paddle shifters, so we're minus on the left, plus on the right-hand side, so we can easily adjust what gear we're in as we go. Now, this specific one does also have, well, you might be able to hear it here. Hold on. It's got massage chair seats. That's that, like, kind of mechanical noisy. That's the one. So I've got massage chair seats going right now. It's really, really nice. But this thing does have adaptive cruise control. So it's very straightforward to use. We can turn it on by pushing this button along the top of the steering wheel there, so top right in that pad. And then we've got a distance indicator. So how close or how far are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us? You've got a few different options available. You've got your lane centering system as well. So lane centering is very different from the lane keeping. So lane keeping will gently nudge us back into our lane versus the lane centering is going to keep us perfectly balanced in our lane as we go, as long as the vehicle recognizes the lane markings. So it's a very, very smart system. I definitely recommend using it. It's such an amazing system. And it works kind of like regular cruise control. So once you get to your cruising speed, you're going to press up in order to turn it on using this little pad. And then we can either increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time. And this thing even has stop and go functionality, so it can bring the car down to a complete stop and then we can resume if we want to go back to our set speed again. So it's a really, really great system. We can toggle that, we can cancel the system as it's going, or we can turn the whole system off if we want to. We've got our volume rocker there, so easily increase, decrease. We can mute out if we want to that route, so very straightforward. Along the right-hand side, a series of other options available. So all of these things are going to let us navigate between the cluster screens, so we'll get to that one in a second. First, we want to point out this. So we've got a voice command prompt, and that's going to let us change songs, radio stations. We can navigate using our voice. If we were hooked up through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, or I guess technically even our phones, we could either use Bixby, we could use our Google Assistant, we can use our Siri Assistant, just depending on which device you're using. So tons of flexibility there. And we also can either change songs, radio stations if we want to. We can also press and hold if we wanted to seek out stations that way instead. So just press and hold, or we just seek to our different stations as we go there. So it's just going to be a matter of preference as to how we go. Now, next step. So what we're going to do here is, let's go. Here we go. All right, there we go. So next up, we're going to use all of these buttons in order to go through this little cluster screen. So a few things to point out. I'm just going to be going up and down using this arrow key. We've got our basic back button and then our menu button. So I'm just going to zoom you in a teeny little bit so you can see what's going on as we go. Let's bump you up. Here we go. So first things first, one thing is that we do have the flexibility of actually adjusting the way that this looks based off of what driving mode we're in. Like, look what happens when we're in the sport mode. Love it. We've got our speedometer on the left. We've got our tachometer on the right side. So it's got a really, really nice looking layout there. And then obviously very, very different comparison when we're in our tow haul mode. So as you can see, a little bit more basic. And then versus when we're in just our regular, like when we're in our normal mode. So that was the mode that we saw when we first turned the vehicle on. So it is nice. It's kind of dynamic, but I do love all of the small animations as we move between all of our different drive modes. Like the deep snow sand, trail mode, into our normal mode, back to eco, sport, and then our tow haul. So tons of options available just based off of what your needs are, based off of your driving conditions. So it is nice we've got that flexibility. But let's go through some options here. So you're going to see along the far right-hand side, we've got like this little hamburger button there, and that's going to let us know what page we're currently on. So we've got our calming screen, fuel economy, our trip counter, tire pressure, and back into our calming screen. So fuel economy, any one of these, fuel economy, trip counters, whatever the case may be, we can just press and hold the OK button on the steering wheel if we want to reset that. So it's a little bit higher just because I'm literally just sitting here explaining features as we go. We can select screens. So what screens show up on this main screen along the right-hand side? So if we press in, we can select different things. So things like our trip 1, 2 counter, we've got our intelligence access, we've got our off-road status, trailer light checks, seatbelts, auto start stop, etc. So we select whatever screens, now we go back, and all of a sudden, so we've got our calming screen, fuel economy, trip counter, but now we've also got which wheel is getting which amount of power. We've also got our off-road status, so we can see the vehicle pitch and roll as we go, as well as our turning angle. We can move down to see what seatbelts are currently plugged in as well. So we've got some flexibility through the select screen option. Moving down, we've got some options for audio, so we can jump between AM, FM, Sirius XM, my phone, Live 1. So it's great because any available option is going to come up through this middle screen. We have a USB stick with MP3s, that'll show up as an available option, and we can easily select out from here if we'd like to. Pressing the menu button again brings us next into navigation. So we've got my home address, we've got previous destinations. So if we select one of these available options,
please proceed to the highlighted route, and then the route guidance will start.
So as you can see there, very straightforward. Select screens. That's actually, I don't think we've got an option for, yeah, unfortunately no option for showing the navigation in that cluster screen. It would be kind of nice, but just not available. There is an option. We can cancel the route on the screen. Button press again to get into our navigation to look for our favorites, point of interest icons, and things like that. Or moving back into our phone so we can see all of our calls, incoming, outgoing, etc. We could just press the voice command prompt if we want to, and we can use that in order to make songs. We can change songs, I should say, make phone calls, change radio stations, like so many different options available there. But that's the basics of that screen. We jump back and it's literally that. Like we've got some options for settings now, which really just our oil life. We can reset that if we're doing it ourselves, and we can adjust our display. So we've got our speed, miles per hour to show, yes or no, and then we can also show the tachometer. So I want you to watch something for a second. We back up. We've got our tachometer along the left side. So as we give it a little bit of gas, you can see our tachometer adjusting there. But I mean, which mode you're in is going to depend on what you'd like, but it is nice that we've at least got that option, and it's so simple to use all at the same time. But I love it. I love this mode. This looks really sharp. Like, the sport mode in general is really nice, but just giving it all of these smaller animations and smaller touches, I think looks fantastic. We can see we're in the sport mode. We've got our little S along the very bottom of the screen there on top of that. But so that was a look at the steering wheel and cluster inside of the Explorer ST. Pretty straightforward, right? But if you ran into any problems, you need any clarification, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. More than willing to talk you through any issues that you might be having. But if you enjoyed this video, thumbs up, share it with your social networks, and think about subscribing. And until I see you next time, take care.